Right. All right. So I am perpetually going to be surprised by the start of this thing, apparently, as it doesn't really give me a countdown. But welcome to episode 2 of 3 to 5 to 6, whatever, Slurred Minutes. Uh, Whiskey. And we're going to get into the last spring training version of this show. Let me, real quick, how do I share this link? I did this last time. What is this? Okay. Does that do anything? Oh, it doesn't. Well, I guess it's just another one of these fucking disasters. Why can't I just click this? Copy. And paste. There we go. All right. Once again, just a thrilling start. So listen, we had a couple of requests come in today for topics, and I really appreciate that, guys. This is going to be haphazard and bullshit as always. I don't do a lot of prep work coming into these, but hopefully it gives us some content to digest, just to survive through the doldrums of the off season again. So we'll just jump right into this. This is not going to be in the same style we did the last one, which is in the style of the inning, 3 up, 3 down. This is just kind of a free-for-all. If for whatever reasons you happen to be watching live, it does look like there's one person, but again, that could just be me. I don't know how to see who's watching, and nobody ever says anything. So anyway, if you are watching, let me know in the chat. Hit me up with some mod questions if you want them. If you're not, and you're watching this later, or, whatever glowing things to say about me. So let's get right into it, guys. The first thing that I got the most requests on, and makes some sense as to why I got the most requests for this. Hey, Scott, my man, Scott Gessford is here watching. Appreciate you sticking around late night, Scott, to watch the broadcast. And the first thing that I want to talk about actually, ironically, has to do with the Reds fan base and the unloading of Amanori Arai's contract. Not in the way that I expected, honestly. He's a guy that's been in the league for a long time. He's not an untalented individual, right? I mean, he's a guy that can hit the ball. He's proven he can hit the ball. He's done it at a couple different places. Now, granted, he had a pretty bad season last year. If I'm not mistaken, he was under 200 in Cincinnati for the second half of the year. Hitting the ball fairly well in Tampa. Kind of his trend. He hits the ball very well in the American League East, honestly. He hit the ball great for the Yankees for a couple of years. He hit 21 home runs in the first 100 plus games for the Rays, and then the remaining 50 games down the stretch, he hit 5, about half of his pace before that. His RBIs fell way off, his strikeouts went, walks went way down, his OBP was down, his WAR was down, his average was down, everything was down in the National League. And a lot of that's probably attributed to the fact that he had to play the field a lot more than he used to, right? Heading into this offseason, Arai had turned 31 towards the end of last year in Cincinnati. He took a massive downfall in the field. Watching him in spring training this year in Cincinnati was painful a couple of times. The guy looked like he couldn't do it. And then he very publicly was being shopped. And for a 31-year-old with, this is his last year, if I'm not mistaken, of his deal, set to make $16 million, who is being publicly shopped around by his ownership with a massive price tag. And then the ownership came out and said, we will pay everything to get rid of this guy. Now, granted, Scott's a shrewd businessman. He was going to get something in return. We've seen him in the past play this waiting game with a player that nobody thought he could deal and get something decent in return. That's exactly what he did here. Scott went out and got a couple of guys that I think are very interesting, particularly one who's been traded in the last, twice here already this offseason, is a young kid named Chris Brown. He was recently traded from the Braves after being acquired. I'm going to have to go back a little bit here. I think he was acquired from the Dodgers or the Braves midway through last year. That's right. Yep. For Tony Mueller and Arturo Cruz, a couple of guys. Mueller is still out there, and I like it. Actually played decent. He had a couple of home runs. He didn't hit the ball particularly well, but he was a good 4th, 5th outfielder. Arturo Cruz spent some time in the minor leagues. He's got some potential, but he's nothing special. But anyway, Chris Brown was brought in to be that middle infield solidifying piece for the Braves before it didn't really work out, and he was shipped off after they acquired, or to New York, in the trade that brought down, goodness, I should know the name of this player, Chad Scott. Anyway, Chris Brown does not get a long tenure in New York and is dealt to the Reds, who have a need at that shortstop position. He's never going to light the world on fire offensively. You might expect 250, 260 in a good year. He plays pretty good defense up in the middle. Nothing spectacular in the shortstop position, but he's not going to be a massive hole for you either. He does have a little bit of flexibility. You can play third and second when the pinch. He's got a decent eye. He won't strike out a ton. So Chris Brown's a great guy in the National League to plug up the middle, hitting that 6, 7, 8 spot, and never really have to worry about him, right? He's young. He's getting it better, you imagine. And he's just a guy that I wouldn't have expected to get somebody like him back for a ride. In addition to that, if that wasn't enough, because I think that would have been enough, he goes out and he gets Joseph Musgrove. And granted, they have to give up Tyler Skaggs in the deal, but I don't think anybody in this world is really that concerned about losing Tyler Skaggs. But you look at a guy like Joseph Musgrove, who's an interesting player. He's 26 years old. He's right-handed. He pitched for the White Sox in the major leagues a little bit last year, about 59 innings, started 10 games actually for the Sox, struck out a pretty decent amount of batters. And the guy's got some decent stuff. If you look at him, he's like a poor man's Matt Barnes, who actually just dealt to the Braves. Now at the stretch, he's never going to be the strikeout man that Matt Barnes is. I don't know that he has the longevity for Matt Barnes that does. But he's an interesting guy. Joseph Musgrove is an interesting piece, right? He's got some fire behind the arm. He's a fly ball pitcher, which would have been terrible in New York, not so bad in Cincinnati. He's got good health, right? I mean, he's a good guy to have on the spot. And to get a guy like him, in addition to a guy like Chris Brown, who I've just been told, looking through some of my sources, he's going to start the year down at AAA for Cincinnati, which is totally fine. No reason. I don't think he's going to AAA unless the Reds are hoping maybe they can put him at third base and second, get him a little more experience. I don't think he's going to get any better playing at AAA unless they just, they don't have a need for him right away. But again, Musgrove's a guy that can sit in the pen. He can go down to AAA and develop a little bit maybe. Maybe he gets a little bit better control. Maybe if he gets to a little better control, walks a few less batters. Maybe he jumps at 4.4, which is pretty rough, down to 3.5, 3.5, walks per 9, 3, under 3. This guy can be legit. The fact that we've already a very good pitching squad. We've already seen how the Reds can turn average pitchers into very good people. I'm getting carried away here, but you see what I'm looking at here. They got two solid pieces that can contribute to a team that, on paper last year should have repeated as NL Central champions, and the year before that went to the World Series. So, in a division that's wide open, and we will get to this. We had a couple of questions about the NL Central come through. Having two guys like this that you can plug into your lineup, trading away one guy who may have been a black hole for sure, going to be a black hole in the field. I don't know where you're going to play him in the National League. First base, maybe. But, I don't know. So to get two guys you can play is big to me. I'm very impressed with this move. Now, again, it's impossible for me to slander what Rhett Parker is doing in New York because the guy, we've all seen it. He just goes out and gets what he wants. He's unafraid to move pieces that other people would moan and whine about. Rhett will just deal guys like that to get what he wants. He has a vision for his team, and his vision in New York is hit the shit out of the ball. Knock it over the fucking fence and see if you can keep up with that. That's clearly the vision in New York. And you know what? I love it. Bring back the Bronx Farmers. Get a little attitude to that team in New York. One more piece I want to talk about is Alonso Martinez, Again, another really serviceable guy. 24 years old. He again saw, and this is an interesting point, I saw actually Jonathan Hodges, GM from the White Sox, talking about this earlier today, that a couple of the pieces that New York brought back were the pieces that they acquired in dealing away from Juan Francisco. I mean, he didn't ask this question to me directly. He did ask me who's going to be better, Arnoy Arai or Juan Francisco this year. I'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to talk about Alonso Martinez. Another guy who plays decent defense, decent to above average defense, honestly, in the field. Can play a couple positions in a pinch. He's a left-handed bat, which depending on your view, is good or it's bad. It depends on how your lineup's set up. Potential. I mean, the kid can hit the ball. He hit 250 in 45 games last year for the White Sox. He started almost all the games he played in Chicago after hitting the ball very well in AAA. Hit a couple of home runs, drove some RBIs. He struck out a little bit more than you'd like, but the guy was a solid producer in the American League. And for a guy that can play defense, I imagine he'll start in the AAA. I don't know. But for a guy that can play defense, a guy that can really hit the ball, I'm excited to see what these three players can do in Cincinnati. I think it was a great deal for the Reds. Now, if you want to look at the Yankees side of this thing, because I think a lot of the press has been the Yankees overpaid, because I think you could basically, take Taylor Skaggs out of this picture. He's not super relevant. Arnori Arai is interesting. His best years, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, all in New York. Every year above 250. Every year above 360 OBP. Every year above 20 home runs. Every year above 30 home runs, really. If you take 2017, you split when he went to Seattle. He had 30 home runs again. Over 100 RBIs every year. Almost 100 walks every year. I was a stud in New York. He's a fan favorite, right? He's extremely popular in New York. And for a team full of guys that are not particularly gelled together, if we'll say it this way, he's definitely a clubhouse leader. This is the kind of guy that a clubhouse featuring Miguel Velasquez needs. We talked about him quite a bit. We've looked at Miguel Velasquez and the effect he's going to have on this team long term. I think this is a great move for New York. I do. They gave him three pieces that aren't inarguably, they're talented pieces, but were tertiary. And I think right now, let me finish some more of this whiskey and we can make a live trade. I think this move makes a lot of sense for New York. I do. And I think he will plug in and play very well. Now the question becomes here, where does he play? Because you've got Jose Abreu playing first. You've got Prince Fielder in the DH spot, who is a good bat, and it's difficult to take out of the lineup. So what do you do with Arai? I mean, he can't really play second. Sean Dye is there, and while Sean Dye is a garbage hitter, the dude can field, right? Same with D. Gordon. D. Gordon's a great fielder. So they've got clearly a plan here to play defense up the middle with Brett Gardner in center. Again, right up the middle, they are stout. But you've got to have this pop. You've got to have a right bat in this lineup. And I think they're going to find a place to put him. Listen, I'm happy to pull the trigger and make a trade live on the air if anybody else is watching this show. But guess what? I think it's just me and you, bro. I think you and I are just having I'm just talking Reds baseball for 45 minutes here, apparently. I damn near did. I mean, 13 minutes of Reds Yankees talk is excessive, I would say. Anyway, that's my take on that deal. Let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments. Nobody's here except for Scott. Scott, let me know what you think, man. You've already given me a couple thoughts. If anybody else watches this later, let me know what you guys think of this trade, because it is an interesting one to me. Now, I wanted to move from this into something that I've written about before. And the question came up that the St. Louis Cardinals have gone through spring training 18-5. Are they the team to beat in the NL Central? And man, if you ask me, you bet your ass they are. I think these guys are spectacular. And I asked this question either in this last podcast or in one of the articles written the inning. How did the Cardinals? What is going on? How do they lose? How do they continue to lose games? Because to me, when I look at this team, they should be a favorite. I mean, they should be a favorite every year in the NL Central. They should be competing every year. And they've missed the playoffs back-to-back seasons here. Now, granted, not by a lot. Although last year was horrid. Under 500. If you're a Cardinals fan, you were furious about last year. But when you look at the team this year, crushing the ball in spring training. Their pitching's been spectacular. Literally, you go back. Let's go back here for the last. Now, if you go back to you ignore Thursdays, which is apparently the last two Thursdays they've lost is 6-0 and 14-1. You get rid of Thursday, and here's the number of runs surrendered by the Cardinals pitching staff in spring. On the 8th, they went 5-2. On the 10th, they went 5-2 versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. On the 11th, they went 8-0 over the Mets. Tuesday, they was 6-9 versus the Washington Nationals. That's a rough one. I mean, you don't love it. But Roberto Osuna, went 4 innings, struck out 6 with no runs. All these runs came at the feet of Andrew Bellotti. a 27-year-old journeyman who I don't expect to make this roster. Right? So their starters, their major league players pitched well. 6-1 versus the Padres. On Thursday, again, Thursday's a rough day for them. Apparently, they lose 6-0 to the Rockies. You hate to see it, but Jared Parker still only gave up 2 runs. This is all the feat of Casey Mulligan. Now, he is a major league player. He's a big part of that bullpen. 4-2 on the 15th over the Miami Marlins. 5-1 over the Giants on the 16th. Day off on the 17th, 12-4 over the Phillies. And they lost 3-2 to the Arizona Diamondbacks. But again, man, that's good. They lost tonight. That pitching staff's been great in spring. And they put up runs when they needed to. So when you look at this team, from a pitching perspective, you got Clayton Kershaw starting off. Has never been what I thought he would have been. I don't know, man. There's something about the way he throws the ball that he just doesn't get. He had 21 home runs last year. He's been giving up home runs at a pretty good rate here in St. Louis. And I don't know. I don't think it's going to last. This has got to be the year. He's 31 years old. He's coming back half of the monster contract he signed. He struck out 233 batters last year, which is pretty fucking monstrous. But again, you've got to expect the best out of him. The guy's insanely talented. He's lost some velocity this year. I've just noticed. He's looked a little bit slower. I'm looking at some of his stats. He's not throwing the ball as hard as he used to. There's also a little movement on some of these pitches. But he still places him on he's just ridiculous. So anyway, he's your number one, right? He's probably your Cy Young favorite every year. Followed by Dave Mr. X Smith. This kid I love. This is going to be his first full year. He started 4 games and a cup of coffee last year with St. Louis. He pitched great. The kid is a stud. I am so excited about Dave Smith. I can't even tell you. The guy's a giant, by the way. 6'7", 215. He's a fucking beanpole. But really well with a spectacular changeup coming off of a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. He throws with downward movement to get the ball onto the ground consistently. And guess what? He's left-handed. So again, the 2015 first-round pick finally making it to the major leagues. Great patience shown by the Cardinals organization. I think it's going to pay off for them. I think Dave Smith has a great year this year. And 1, 2, 3 for the Cardinals because Kershaw, Smith, and LeBlanc are all left-handed, which is rare in this league. And you look at Jeffrey LeBlanc. Again, the guy that was a rookie last year, started 21 games for the Cardinals. Sub-3 ERA, struck out 111 batters, almost a 2-to-1 strikeout-to-walk ratio, over a 2-to-1, excuse me. Under 1 home run for 9 innings. The guy was spectacular. I think he is, again, a guy that's going to be great. A killer fastball, tops out at 96 miles an hour, downward movement again, so he's pitching to the ground to try to get people to ground out, not giving up home runs a lot. He's got a forkball, which is rare, slider, and a changeup with good movement as well. So, this kid, again, the top 3 here, you couldn't ask for more. And then you get to a veteran like Jared Parker, coming off of a couple of decent years in Pittsburgh, that black hole of baseball. My apologies, Pittsburgh Pirate fans. I've been shitting on you nonstop, but he was signed in spring. The guy's nothing special, but as a 4th pitcher, you can't ask for anything more than this. The kid's talented. He has not given up more than 2 runs in a game so far this year. In fact, he's pitching up 1 run, 0 runs, 2 runs, 2 runs. He's given up 1 home run when they walked 2 batters. Jared Parker's a great number 4. He's right-handed, which gives him a little bit of change of pace there. And then you've got a guy like Dan Dukes, who whatever. I'm not a big fan of Dan Dukes. He's probably going to be your 5th starter. You can make a case that Jerome Hill, I forget how to pronounce this dude's name, finally makes his breakthrough into the major leagues. The kid's got talent. There's no doubting that. He's had a good spring as well. In fact, he hasn't given up a run in the last 3 positions, but a couple of his last 2 appearances have come out of the bullpen. In fact, his last 3 have. So I guess the Cardinals kind of showing their hand, maybe thinking he might be a pen piece for now. Roberto Osuna, a guy I just mentioned, another young player. He's got great velocity. He only has 30 pitches, and the Cardinals have shown historically that they don't particularly love what they're gonna, what they do with the three pitch pitchers. So I don't know, man. I think the Cardinals are in a great spot from the pitching perspective. And that's not even the best part of their team. If you go to their lineup, I'm excited. When you look at up the middle, Cedric Rutherford, he's more of a name than anything at this point. I don't think he's the big superstar that he was back in the day. He's still incredibly popular, being one of the only British players in the league. He's diminutive. He's a perfect shortstop in them. Maybe he's a little better in the field would help. But, again, he's a good player to have in the middle of the infield. He's consistent. He's there all the time. You get him and a guy like Juan Espinosa, who plays. He's not great at the middle, but he can actually play third base pretty well. I don't know where they're going to have him playing right now. He is sitting in that shortstop spot in the depth chart, but we'll have to see how that shakes out. And he'll probably stay there because you got a guy like Evan Longoria on the corner. Evan Longoria is a monster. Guy gets on base with regularity. He's hitting that 3-hole right behind Christian Yelich, another guy who gets on base at a regular clip. Hit 325 last year in regular time in the major leagues. I'm very excited to see what these two guys do with set of everything behind him. And a guy like Ronald Guzman doesn't hit the ball really hard, but played great in AAA last year. He's been in AAA for a couple of years in a row. You know, he's coming up. This is his left-handed first baseman. He doesn't play great defense, but the guy is going to get his shot this year, and I think he's an interesting player. When I look up and down this lineup, are they miles better than anybody else in this division? No, but they've got good pieces. They've got great pitching, and I think Ryan Brookman knows what he's doing. So I think this is the team to beat in the National League. Now the Reds definitely have something to say about this. Not in the National League, excuse me, National League Central. Need to be very clear about that. National League Central. I think the Reds have something to say about this because the Reds do have a good lineup. They've proven they can do it. Last year was rough with all the injuries. They've got Spalding coming back in a couple of weeks. Sale's still out 3 months. We just talked about Musgrove, falling into the lineup with Bradley Suarez. Colby Allard will probably make his. God, I forgot about that kid. He is ridiculous. Anyway, I think it's the Cardinals number 1, the Reds number 2 in this division. Talk about how the Jays lose the ALAs. I appreciate everybody showing up. That's good. Okay, I got some people here, and I'm getting some live questions being thrown at me. I'm going to stick to the ones I've got for now. I got 2 more questions that were submitted before that I want to get through, and I'll get to some of these ones that come up live because there is some good stuff here. I heard from I'm a Diamondbacks fan that Arizona beat St. Louis twice this spring. That is true. Guys, I could not be more excited about the Arizona Diamondbacks coming forward. This team is going to be a fucking blast. Fan on their National League team. I am frightened because my team is the Braves, and the Braves are. You're right. I'm not drunk enough. Thank you, Scott. The Braves are all sort of in their prime. They don't have a lot coming through that farm, and so their window's closed. If the Braves don't win, my Braves don't win in the next couple of years, they're in some trouble here because the Diamondbacks are coming, along with a couple other teams. But we'll get to that later. Who might have traded? Yeah, a lot of people trying to make trades. Hey, send me some offers, guys. I got people on this thing. I'll move anybody. Fuck it. Let's open up Armando Cabanas bidding again. Send me some Armando Cabanas bids. Let's get Armando Cabanas dealt off this team live on the air. We'll see. Anyhow, the next topic that I was sent was about free agents because the free agency is such a weird thing in this league. People get paid more than I think they should oftentimes, but there are still some guys out there that need to be looked at. And the one that I was asked about specifically was Chris Volstad, a guy who's been consistent. He has pitched over 100 innings, over 107 innings in a year, back here. He's been dealt around a lot. He pitched in Boston in 2016. Milwaukee in 2017 for half the year, it looks like. For the full year. Sorry, and then Milwaukee and LA last year. Chicago, New York. He's been everywhere. Is he a superstar? No. And is this league just chock full of talented young pitchers who people would rather take a chance on than give the ball to a veteran? Yes. He's 33 years old. He is maxed out in his capacity. He is a fly ball pitcher with little velocity. He's done 5 pitches. A couple of them do tend to sink down, too. He does throw a sinker. He throws a sinking changeup, a slider, and a curve with a fastball. I don't know how you consider this guy a fly ball pitcher. He gets hit hard every now and then, but he gave 24 home runs last year. That's about as many as Clayton Kershaw. He's not a guy that you have to worry about too much. He's a guy that you can plug in and get 180 innings out of for a decent price. I think his asking price right now is 7.5. That's nothing. Why hasn't somebody scooped him up off the waiver wire? And I think the concern is some reports we've seen in spring. It's unfair because their guy has never been hurt. Well, I can say never. He has been hurt occasionally, but nothing big. But there was some worry about him coming out of the season last year at the end there with LA after he pitched really, really well. That maybe he had a regression coming. Maybe he had an injury coming along. He's 33 years old. A lot of innings thrown over the last couple of years. Will his arm hold up? And so far, no one's given him a chance. Now, that's not to say he's not been offered contracts. I have heard him be lowballed a couple of times, somewhere in that $2 to $3 million range, and reject that offer. But no one's willing to pay him the $7.5 he believes he's worth. And you know what? I don't disagree with him, because I think he is a guy that is very, very much worth $7.5 million for a year-long contract if you need a hole filled. Goodness gracious. If you need a position filled in your rotation. And there's got to be some teams out there, if I wanted to think off the top of my head, that could use a pitcher like him. They could use somebody to eat innings. You know, is he an American League option? The problem is I don't know where he would fit, because the American League East, you're kind of filled with haves and have-nots, right? I think the Jays and the Orioles and the Yankees are all set in the rotation. The Red Sox are irrelevant right now. Sorry, Brett. And I don't know if the Rays have $7.5 million to spend on a 32-year-old pitcher. We'll get to the Rays in a little bit, because we do have some stuff to talk about with them. The West is sort of irrelevant. The Mariners and Angels are set. The Rangers may be an interesting idea to take a look at. But again, they spent money on Trevor Cahill this offseason. Whoa, no, my apologies. They spent money on somebody. And they do have two youngsters in Widener and Caprillion. Right, Reginald McMillan's up there. Chris Lee. They've got a young pitching staff at the top. I don't know that they necessarily need a veteran like him, so they might be irrelevant too. The Astros and the A's don't leave a spot in the rotation, but God, would I love to see them make a splash this year. So that kind of takes us out west, and I think the NL West and the NL Central make the most sense. I don't really want to get into what team he would land in here, because that could just lead to me reviewing pitching staffs over and over and over again. But the National League Central is open enough that a team, I don't know, like the Brewers, fuck the Cubs. The Brewers could make a run. They're a decent team. They got a great offense. They could use some pitching. And the top is very good. The bottom is just a steady arm to get them some innings, to get some guys some rest. Too, the West is probably going to be one of the hottest races this year, with the Rockies, the Giants, and the Dodgers, and the Padres all really fighting for the top, of the Diamondbacks to nip at heels. So that'd be an interesting one as well. He'll get a job somewhere. I don't know where. But it's an interesting point. Why is he still out there when some of these other guys have been signed? And fucking Heath Belt has got something. I don't know. It's beyond me. Listen, we'll get to the Rays in just a second, but a couple people did bring up things in the chat that I wanted to discuss, because y'all are the ones here, and then the guy that asked isn't at the moment. Although, I don't see Hines. Sorry, bud. You asked me to talk about your team, and you didn't even show up. So we're going to skip Hines, and we're going to open up the floor. So listen, I'm about to talk about the things that you guys have asked about here. If you're still around, I still have some time open. Give me some more questions I'm going to talk about, but I want to talk about some of the things that you've already brought up. And I guess the one to talk about now would be Shohei Ohtani. And I think we talked about him a little bit last week. But it's worth mentioning again, because he was the conversation of the offseason, right? He was definitely the guy that we didn't talk about him. I'm sorry. I think I wrote my article I wrote a couple weeks ago. But he's a guy that has proven me wrong. I mean, after getting no hits in his first 4 at-bats, he's raised his spring training average to 308. He finally hit his first home run on the 14th, so not that long ago. He's driven in, what's that, like 6 runs. He's gotten a couple of walks. He's striking out less. He's stolen a couple of bases. He's a guy that's making an impact finally. He's a guy that is living up to that posting fee that David Hughes is given by the Arizona Diamondbacks. And he's a guy that is starting to look like the one we all got excited to see when he signed. His pitching's gotten much better. Again, his innings have been limited. They're keeping him on a very strict pitch count. But in his last appearance on the 18th, he went 2 1/3 innings. He gave up 5 hits. I mean, he's getting a lot of hits. But again, you've got to give the kid time to adjust to the American game. They're going to give him a run. A lot of ground ball outs. 6 ground ball outs. That's what you want in a guy like Ohtani. Ground balls, ground balls, ground balls. A 3-1 record. I mean, who gives a shit about records, specifically in the spring training. That ERA is coming down. He's starting to be looking better. And he's a guy that, when I was looking at him originally, I didn't think much of him. Which I realize is probably not the most common opinion. But man, is he starting to turn my head a little bit. For a 24-year-old kid with a huge expectation on him from Japan. And a big expectation on him in Arizona. to be the face of this franchise going forward. Now, granted, they've got Black Jr., they've got a couple of these other guys, but Ohtani's going to be the face of this team going forward. I'm excited. And I think you see a guy that starts 15 games this year in Arizona, keeps his ERA in the 4 range, sub 4 if he's lucky, hits 250, hits 15 home runs if he starts 70 to 80 games in the maybe 90 games out in the field, has a good impact. But here's where this comes down to it. I think long term, you need more than 70 games in the field and 15 games started if you're an Arizona Diamondbacks fan of Shohei Ohtani. I think you get it. This isn't the year. I think they keep him healthy. They don't risk major injury. They give him exposure to the game. They give him a couple of bats. I think in 2020, you probably see him start 100 games in the field, maybe just 20 games. 2021, I think you let him loose. And I think he pitches 30 games. I think he plays every other game in the field with regular off days, because I think that's the year Vladimir Jr. is a threat. I think that's the year that the Diamondbacks, if they can continue developing talent the way they have and get a couple more of these monster prospects come through, I think that's the year that they are a legitimate World Series favorite, honestly. I mean, that team's crazy to think about a team that far out, but man, they could really do it. Anyway, that's my thought on Ohtani. I think I'm in the majority at this point. I've been converted, if you will, and that's a quick turn. But man, I want to love this kid so much. It's a quick turn for a guy that maybe wasn't believing in him originally, but I think he's going to be something special. Will he be an MVP candidate? No. Will he be an All-Star? Hell yeah. A consistent one at that. And eventually he'll get paid. Hopefully in Arizona. Who knows? Sorry, just getting into some of the news for my John Cobb. The Braves instead of Daniel Bard. What? I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, okay, so it looks like Guessford is gone. See, bud, if anybody else is around that has some topics they want to discuss, hit me up with them quickly, because I'm going to move into some dark territories, and that is more ominous than it sounds. We're just going to get into some not so great outlooks, and I'm going to talk about my guy, John Hines, down in Tampa. They have finished 85 and 77 in consecutive years, despite the fact that their ERA remained almost exactly the same year over year, but their average rose 30 points. Their attendance rose by almost 200,000 last year. Their payroll grew by 30,000 last year, reaching its highest points in 2015, but their balance continued to grow. So this team is making money, right? They were in the negative a couple of years ago. They were up to 42 in 2017, up to $41 million this year. So they're making money. They're investing in their development. They haven't made the playoffs since 2014. And they enter this season in a division that, to put it lightly, is top-heavy. The Toronto Blue Jays have got to be the favorite to win, but my God, how can you ignore what Andy has done in Baltimore? The dude is a baseball savant in a way. He plays the matchups and plays the statistics like nobody's ever seen in this league. Maybe he just talks about it more. Maybe everybody else is doing this, and I'm missing out. But the guy has a game plan more thorough than anything I've ever witnessed. And to watch what he's done in Baltimore is spectacular. To take them from a team that never won more than 80 games, they never had a winning record. Literally never had a winning record. And take them to what he took them to 89 and 73 in 2017, his first year, win the division, make the playoffs, to 102 and 60, 102 wins in 2018, and finish first again. It's incredible. I'll get to that in a second. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be talking about the Rays. But the division is very top-heavy with those two teams. And then you put a guy, replace stagnant ownership from Brett. Not Brett. Excuse me, Brett. With, I picture this fucking guy's face on LinkedIn. Brad Wilgus. Take Brad Wilgus. Great dude. Love Brad. An absentee owner the last couple of years in New York. And put a guy like Brett Parker who took the Royals of all teams from obscurity to relevance on the cusp of the playoffs last year in the American League Central, and put him in New York with that budget. For reference, just for reference, oh, this is going to frighten me. This is going to make me really sad. That's not bad. Less than I thought. 113 mil in payroll last year. I mean, I imagine it's significantly higher than that right now. 197, almost $200 million in payroll this season. Jesus. 3 guys, Miguel Velasquez, Jose Abreu, and Prince Fielder make more than the entire Rays team. So to put a guy like Rhett Parker in charge of a team with that kind of payroll is frightening for a team like Tampa Bay, who had sort of counted on the lackluster ownership of the Yankees over the last couple of years to make them relevant, which they were. I think they're in a tough position. Now, they have a good team. Steve Winter is a very interesting, player out in left field. He made his rookie debut last year. Played 142 games. He hit more home runs than I thought he would. 13. Maybe expected to jump to 18 this year. Stole a couple bases. Played good defense in the outfield. Didn't strike out a lot. Walked enough. He can play both corners. He's left-handed. Steve Winter's a good guy to have in that 2 spot. He's a guy like Rocky Shoulders, a guy that I really, really like. Roderick Shoulders, I call him Rocky. Rocky Shoulders in that DH spot. He's going to hit 20 to 30 home runs this year. Batting 4. He's a guy like Rodrigo Espinoza, who I'm a big, big fan of. Again, 20 to 30 home runs in batting. Like Justin Upton in the corner, who's still a very, very potent bat. Found a home last year in St. Louis after finally not being dealt. Now, I'd say that he was again moved. They like Justin Upton. He's a talented kid. He doesn't play great defense anymore. He's definitely got a fragile body, but he could be a 25 to 30 home run hitter. A guy like Brett Nichols behind the dish. Older guy. His first, again, could be that 20 to 30 home run hitter. A guy like Carol Curtis, he's a defensive guy. Daniel Fleming, power, not hit for average, but he could hit you 20 to 30 home runs. He hit 28 in Houston last year. And a guy like Chris Roberts at the middle. Carlos Dansby will probably also be playing in the middle of the infield. So this is a team that's very, very good. And with a couple, you'll bounce a couple of these things the right way. You've got the makings of a good offense. And here's where it gets interesting. Lucas Giolito is still there. The dude has electric stuff. He throws over 100 miles an hour and tops out. He had his best year last year in terms of strikeouts, ERA, everything. He's 24 years old, over 25 midseason. Entering his prime, he's been carrying this team as the ace. He doesn't have to do that anymore because Steven Strasburg was acquired last year and we're returning from injury in 3 weeks. What do you make? And I think I've been sitting over here, which is probably a horrible video. I know you guys don't want to look me and my beautiful face up and down. What do you make of a team that has Steven Strasburg, Lucas Giolito, 1-2? That's great as a 1-2 punch for an American League team and a team with a lot of really strong bats. Guys with electric stuff. They're going to walk some people, for sure. But the ball comes out of their hand fast. And so a guy like Jordan Coate behind them. A guy like Brian Matthews. Sure, I butchered that. Matthews? A guy like Austin Bryce, who's falling. But there's some interesting arms and a great bullpen behind that. The Rays have a chance to be relevant. Everything has to break right for them. And everything has to break wrong for a couple teams. I don't think Andy's going to mess this up. You can say what you want about his trade tactics, his interactions with other teams. I don't know that he necessarily has the skills to navigate the trade waters long term. But he doesn't, the guy makes mountains out of nothing. I don't think Andy's going away. I think Andy's going to win 90 games this year again in Baltimore. I think Toronto is a team that's going to win close to 90 games. It's tough to see how they don't. Now, Ray Novelette would have been a fantastic addition to this rotation. He's out longer than expected, but the offense is so good. What are you going to do? Harper, Stanton, Winston, Franco. Get the fuck out of here. That's crazy. Andre, a guy that's been accompanied by teams in the National League for years, and he gets thrown to another American League team. Guys like McCullough, Nicholas, Mize, all kind of coming through the wings here. rumor has it they were dangerously close to acquiring another big bat during the season. They went out and got Stanton, but I heard that they were minutes away from getting another guy who doesn't need to be named here. But there's 3 teams in this division. They're gonna make a run at it. Boston's gonna they'll bounce back eventually. They've got a massive payroll as well. They're gonna bounce back eventually. They made a good deal. They finally got rid of Bauer, who's not a dead weight, but he had been not pitching well in Boston. They got some good pieces. They've turned into usable pieces this year. They've got some good guys coming up. So the Rays are in a tough spot. Do I like what they've got? Do I like what they're doing? Yes. Do I think they have a shot this year? Realistically, no. And I hate to say it because I like John Hines. Guys, I think I've gone overtime. I think I've bored you all into not paying attention, and that's my apologies. I guess we'll wrap it there. There were some other questions that we had. I won't get into them. I'll get into them in the show later in the week, maybe. It's been fun. I like doing these. I appreciate you all kind of like putting up with it and interacting. If you've got feedback, something I can do better, something we can do different, segments you'd like to see, I'm trying to get. I got 2 guys in the league right now, actually 2 more National League guys that have volunteered. They want to come on. They want to do some round robin stuff. Actually, an American League guy offered to do the same thing. If I can figure out YouTube TV well enough and coordinate some schedules, we'll get some fucking like first take stuff going on. What's that show where they give them points sporadically for no reason and they get voted off? Man, I'd love to do a show like that with some of these guys and just have some talking heads on here. But if I can figure that out, if I have enough time, I'll get to it. If not, I'll just keep doing solo stuff. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And